So we're out here in Alamogordo, New Mexico. They were just doing the hot air balloon ride, but guess what else happens here? Wine and pistachio. So let's do a little wine tasting while we're here. Welcome to Let's Wine a Little. Wine hopping is one of my favorite activities. I know what you're saying. How did that come about? I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to remember the first time I visited a winery or a vineyard and found myself getting wrapped up in, I'm going to say, the art of wine tasting. I honestly cannot think back to when it happened. And I'm really thinking. But I will say this, once I got really invested, and wine can be seen as a hobby, so I'm going to call it a hobby, call it what it is. But once I really thought about growing my wine collection, getting committed to it, then I started focusing on all the other places that I could find wine beyond the local big box store or my grocery store. I'm going to start there. And when I sit here and think about it, I am literally struggling with trying to decide, or I should say remember, when I went to my first vineyard for a tasting. I don't even know. I literally cannot even remember. But let me say this. When we talk about wine tasting, and it's actually far more common than you think. If you were to visit someone like a Total Wine, typically on a weekend day, but sometimes throughout the week, they will do a wine tasting. You know, you can walk in and they will have 2 to 3 different bottles, sometimes 4 bottles of different wines that they would like to push for whatever reason. And then throughout the area, there are other vendors who are available to have you taste whatever they're selling as well, right? So vodka, whiskey, rum, all the things. So when you think of it like that, a lot of us have actually enjoyed a tasting. We do know that a number of restaurants, you can enjoy a flight where they give you 4 to 5 different varieties of a particular cocktail. So it could be a margarita, it could be sangria, it could be rum, it could be whiskey. Again, varieties. But you get to try all of these at once. So knowing that, getting out and doing a wine tasting, you know, for me and where I am in my wine journey, it's been on my radar for maybe the past, we'll say 6 years. That we have really started investing in wine and making the time to go to different places to do a tasting. So let me just throw in a quick little asterisk. The same holds true for vodkas, whiskey, and rums. You know, my husband and I were in Jamaica. We were not too far from the Appleton Rum Estate. They do an amazing wine, I should say wine, but rum tour and rum tasting. And with the rum, it is highly advised to have some water, because even though it's a tasting, it will take you back just a little bit. Definitely not like the wine tasting, but it will take you back. So in my opinion, in order for someone to really expand their palate when it comes to wine, then you got to get out there and try a few things and not be afraid of it. Take your friends with you. And clearly, there are more people who want to get involved in wine and wine tasting, because I am seeing a number of wine events, especially here in Texas. And again, we have a lot of vineyards and things here, but I am seeing a number of events year round focused on people getting out, tasting wine, and shopping. So if you haven't done it, check your local area. You may have someone who is close to you, depending on where you are. And I went as far as New Mexico. So I know, if you look hard enough, you can find a local winery in your area. So speaking of New Mexico, let's go ahead and let's get started with sharing some of my latest wine hopping adventures. We are traveling out to Alamogordo, New Mexico, where they are known not only for their pistachios, but they are known for their wine. So as I said before, I've come to look at the area wherever I'm traveling and check to see if they have any local wineries. You'd be surprised how many states actually produce wine in the United States. I mean, a number. But if you never look for it, you never find it. And for some states, they openly talk about it. So the husband and I were in Alamogordo, New Mexico, celebrating our 7th wedding anniversary. And his question was, what do you want to do? Well, okay, Gwendolyn will always look for the hot spots in a town. And it just so happens that there is just one place called Pistachio Land. Now, I didn't know this, but clearly pistachios is the snack du jour in New Mexico. It is what everybody sells. And so I thought, okay, but it also turns out that when you mix a couple of those pistachios with the grapes, you get some really good wines as well. So I made time to go to the Blanca winery that is located inside of Pistachio Land. Now, it is a free wine tasting, so that's great. You are allowed to try 4 different varietals, even better. But you gotta have your ID. Trust, they are not going to just let you try some stuff and not check to see that you are actually supposed to be trying some stuff. So the gentleman who hosted my wine tasting was Mikey. He had just moved back from Irving, right? Just moved back from Irving, Texas, and was shared with me that he enjoyed the fact that he was back home in New Mexico. But we had a great time discussing the wines that I was trying. Now, I am primarily a sparkling wine person. I do love a good rosé, so if that's on the list, I will always try one of those. And I love a really nice hearty red. So the wines that I tasted, I went for what they sell the most of, and for them it is their pistachio red. They absolutely do extremely well with that one, and it's tasty. I have to give it. It's actually a fairly tasty wine. So I always ask which one sells the most, what is their best seller, because I want to try that and see if it fits my palate. And then from there, I tried something that was kind of sweet, but I'm not a super sweet person. And then also looked at something that was more along my lines of something sparkling or red or a nice medium bold white, which does exist. You just gotta make sure that you look for the right one. So in the midst of all of this, we are tasting the wines, having a good time, chatting with Mikey, and looking at what else they have to offer. Now, Blanca Winery also offers a wine club, and a lot of wineries do offer a wine club and will ship the wines to you. That's one of the blessings of getting out there. So maybe if you didn't take home the 5 bottles you wanted to, you can always have them shipped to you, or you can always try something later in the year. I always ask about a wine club, and although I like collecting shot glasses, I have moved towards collecting wine tasting glasses. What can I tell you? It's just something that reminds me that I was here on this day tasting wine from XYZ Vineyard. So I love a great, memorable wine tasting glass if the vineyard happens to offer it. And most of the vineyards or the wineries do offer it. So this was just one spot. Absolutely loved Blanca. And let me just say this too. If you're ever out in Alamogordo, you definitely want to do the pistachio tour. I know what you're saying. We're talking about wine, and yes, we are, but pistachios is their thing. And like most places, you want to taste the fairs and the wares while you're there. So try out their pistachios, pick up a couple of those bags while you're out tasting the wine, because it is definitely worth it, and it is tasty, extremely tasty. All right, well, let's shimmy on down the road, shall we? And when I mean shimmy, I mean literally a quick minute and a half trip down the road from Pistachio Land. We find Heart of the Desert Winery. Now, they too do offer pistachios and an amazing free wine tasting, but they also have some other great goodies in store. If I may, their olive oils, lovely. Their vinegars, oh my goodness. We know about the pistachios, but there's also their chocolates, and I have to say this, but the dark chocolate pistachio bark, you cannot go wrong. And for those who want to bring something cute home for the wine area, they have that too. Now, this particular wine tasting, they allow you to try all 12 of their wine varietals, and I did not do all 12 because I just don't need to drink everything, but they also have a similar lineup. You have your sweet, you have your dry, you have your red, and you have your whites. And again, I always like to go for the best sellers. And it was just my luck that one of their best sellers was not in stock, the Syrah. What does that tell you? I'm clearly missing out. But they did have the pistachio rosé, which is beautiful, and I absolutely fell in love. There were also two other very hearty reds that I enjoy because I'm good for a nice Rioja. And so we picked up a couple of bottles of those. As a matter of fact, if I think about it, I brought home 4 bottles. I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to go in there and get caught up, but I did. What can I say? What I do love about the Heart of the Desert Winery is that not only can you enjoy their wine tasting and take a bottle home or a case, but you can also buy a glass of wine that you enjoy right then and there on their patio while you sit and savor in the New Mexico air. And I gotta say, it's great weather, it's beautiful. Ugh, who doesn't love the mountains? Now, Heart of the Desert also does what a lot of wineries do. They do have a wine club that allows you to get great discounts and bring their wines home on a consistent basis. So do check that out to see if your state is on the list of where they can ship wines to. Before I left, I made sure to try all the other goodies. And let me say this. The fact that you can go to a place and they are inviting you to try all the chocolates and all of the olive oils and all of the vinegars, it only says one thing. The moment you taste it, it's really hard to not walk home with a couple of bottles. Because, I mean, I brought home 4. What can I tell you? So if you are ever in the New Mexico area, or you can always hop online and check out Heart of the Desert Wines, make sure you make a stop because they are something to behold. And with award-winning wines, I know you cannot go wrong. All right, so now it's time to get local. And one of my favorite wineries, either in Dallas or in Houston, is Pur Noire Winery. First of all, they are the first Black-owned winery in Houston with a tasting room. Oh my. You know what's great? What's great is being able to go into a place and enjoy live music, enjoy nibbles, play games, and just vibe out. Oh my goodness. Absolutely loved it. So, a few years back, 2022 to be exact, I stopped into the Pur Noire Winery in downtown Houston. Had a beautiful time there. Absolutely beautiful. Brought my friends. Had a young gentleman give us a wonderful tasting. It was amazing. And they too have a wine club. And I said, you know what? Here's the problem. Even though I appreciate their private space for their wine club members, yes, there is a private space for you to enjoy your wine when you are a club member. And they have these VIP events, again, for wine members. Loving all of that, I was in the DFW area. And although I'm in Houston quite often, I'm not in Houston enough to invest in a wine club. But I told the young man, if you ever get to the Dallas area, I may look it up. No, I'm in Arlington. And getting to Dallas, depending on the day, is anywhere between like 30 to 45 minutes. But they came to Dallas. And Gwendolyn kept her promise. So, being a person of her word, I brought a dear friend and we went to the grand opening of the Pur Noire Winery, which is down in Victory Park in Dallas. And it was beautiful. Now, lucky for us, we had one of the owners host our tasting. How awesome is that? Not that their staff could not have done a great job too. I'm not saying that, but you gotta know. When you have one of the owners hosting your tasting in the wine club room, which I again loved, you're going to get a little extra. So it was so cool to have her lead our tasting and show all of the wines. Now keep in mind, I've already tasted these wines, so I knew what I was looking for. My dear friend, this is her first time tasting Pur Noire, so she was very new to it, which is fine. Did we leave with something? We most certainly did. Did we leave with joining the wine club? We most certainly did. And again, most of these wine clubs, you only have to buy maybe 3 bottles every 3 months, every 4 months. So it's fairly doable and they have an amazing collection on hand. Do I get to Dallas very often? I do not, but that's why I have things shipped to me. But in the case I ever want to do something special, I am always open to drive out. They do validate the parking. Yes. So you can enjoy yourself. And I am so ready to get back because they have an outdoor seating area with fans. And there is nothing like sitting out in a beautiful Texas fall day with a glass of wine and your friends. So trust, I'll be out there fairly soon enjoying a glass again. But Pur Noire Winery in Houston and Dallas, they are something, definitely something you should try. They have a great collection of wines. There's even this port style wine called Nightcap. Oh, it is like a rum raisin in your glass. Oh my goodness, it is amazing. It's a cordial in my opinion. Like, so it's like it's in the port family, so you're not drinking it, just like you're not doing that. But it is a wonderful way to end the dinner and have a nightcap. Yes, Pur Noire, check them out. They do have a website. And if you're ever in the Houston or DFW area, make sure you make a reservation to get your tasting. So we're staying in Texas and we're heading over to Grapevine, which is again about another 30 minutes for me to enjoy, but they really are filled with grapes on a vine. And so just taking the time to go up and down Main Street in Grapevine, Texas, I ran across Bingham Family Vineyard. Now here's what's great about a number of these vineyards and wineries, at least in Texas. A number of them allow you to go online, make a reservation for your tasting, and then show up. That's what I did. And I decided to go in very early. Nothing against crowds, but sometimes when you're in there just by yourself with your dear friend who will tag along, you're able to ask more questions and you have the person's undivided attention. So we arrived right on time, had a beautiful table, and proceeded to do our tasting. Now, here's how they do theirs. They do offer a sweet tasting, they offer a white, and they offer a red. But there's also something that's off the menu. So say, for example, you like a little bit of everything. In those cases, you can craft your own tasting. So we were able to mix a little bits of this with a little bits of that and get together a tasting that allowed us to be amazed. Now, for myself, most of the wines I tasted, I thought, okay, this is pretty good. There may have been one that was kind of like so-so, but then there is always a stunner. Oh my goodness. There is always one that sticks out, that makes you say, I need at least 8 bottles of this one. So I didn't take home 8 bottles. Nope, I didn't do that. I had to check myself. I did make sure I brought home 4 bottles. I brought home 4 bottles. And typically for me, if I really like one, I bring 2 of each. So then that way I know I can enjoy one and then have one later. But knowing that this family is local to Texas and we like to support our local artisans, then it makes it pretty good and pretty fun to be in their space and try out their wines. And they have a number of award-winning wines, like a number. What's also cool about the Bingham Family Vineyard is that you can also have eats available, and most of these places, if you decide to have cheese and crackers go with your wine tasting, most of these places advise you to give them like 24 hours head notice. At the end of the day, they are a winery. They're not a restaurant. So they can have the nibbles for you, but walking it off the street and being able to get that, depending on the place, you're probably gonna find that's not going to happen. Now, most of these wineries are located around other food places, and some are located inside a food place. But with the Bingham Family Vineyard, they do have a spot where you can order food on hand on certain days, and then other days you want to order in advance, as I mentioned before. Now, loving their wine, and my friend being like me, she said, hey, do you guys sell these wine glasses? And they're like, yes, of course we do. So again, we picked up another another piece of memorabilia to remind us that we were at the Bingham Family Vineyard for our wine tasting. And I have to say, they have a gorgeous, crystal clear, all around, all wine glass. And when you're tasting, you want a nice glass with a hearty bowl that allows you to serve all kinds of wines at any time, but really be able to see it, to smell it, to savor it. And this glass is gorgeous. It's typically what I use now when I want to do a wine tasting because it's just that good. But Bingham Family Vineyard, they are located in Grapevine, Texas. They too have a wine club that is free. So I keep telling you, if you want to get out there and taste a good life, join a club. So remember how I mentioned that there is clearly an uptick in people who are enjoying wine? And I am seeing more and more activities for people who enjoy wine. Yeah, Winofest is where I fell in. Now, here's what I do know. I know that in my area, I can type in wine activities and get a list of items that I can enjoy. And a lot of them are very much like the Winofest. It has to be a place where one person, one particular company, is sponsoring a space for a variety of local vendors to come and have persons try their wines. Now, what did Gwendolyn do? Well, Gwendolyn joined up with her girlfriends, and the four of us enjoyed a day of wine tasting and shopping. So here's what's great about these kinds of festivals is that not only is it open for the wine vendors, but it allows other local vendors that may be similar in what they sell to come in. There's always a good place for good barbecue and good food, so consider that done. And who doesn't like a couple of smell goods? That's there too. But what's awesome about these local vendors in Winofest is that they were all from Texas, from various areas, most of them from the Hill Country, which is right around the Austin area, Fredericksburg area, where we know there are plenty of wines being created in them hills. I mean, plenty. It is on my list to make a trip up to the Hill Country, do a bed and breakfast, and just hop from spot to spot. It's a thing to do. I mean, I'm just telling you. Okay, so back to the focus. The focus is tasting these wines. So in this one, there were 9 different vendors, and there were a variety of different wines. Not your typical grape wines. There were wines made from flowers. Yes, flowers, which had a different taste but was enjoyable. And then there was also space for cider. Now, you don't typically see a person who creates cider at a wine fest, but his take on a mimosa, I had to get a couple of bottles because it is that good. That good. And there were also more people there who had their own personal take on a port, and then also a few other seriously aged bold whites. I'm telling you, if you can't get out to visit all the wineries in your area, then looking for a wine festival is your next best idea because the vendors will come to you. One of the things that the vendors also do beyond promoting their wine is they typically have some sort of special, and yes, we'll say it again, they offer a wine club. People want to put wine in your home, and we are going to help you do it. If we say nothing else, we're going to tell you to join the wine club. Now, the Winofest, it is held in various cities from my understanding throughout the year. This vendor tends to travel. So I am certain if you don't have that particular person in your city, you may have someone very similar who is related to the overall organization. But look for wine festival and wine activities in your neighborhood, which allows you to just take a couple of steps and try out the entire area. You may be surprised how many people produce wine where you are. I mean, we're talking flowers like dandelions, hibiscus. It was amazing, amazing. Okay, now I didn't go through all of my wine hopping adventures, because Gwendolyn does some wine hopping. If I have to recommend another place beyond Napa Valley, okay, because we know about California, you can get up to Oregon and Washington State as well. But Tennessee, I was down in Knoxville and enjoyed my day off going from one spot to the next. I'm trying to tell you, there is this whole world that for some people, if you were a wine snob or are a wine snob, you just didn't want people to enjoy it. It is clear that the wine community understands that they have a whole new plethora of customers before them. They have so many age ranges that have not been tapped. They are going all in, and they are welcoming you as well. When I was down there in Tennessee, in the Knoxville area, the greens are amazing. The hills, you cannot find a more picturesque place. It was, well, it's not a was, it's an is. It is beautiful. So, the next time you're out and about, just trying to see what's going on, or you're looking for something to do, check your search engine, you talk to your GPT, asking about what local wine festivals are going down. Or if you're traveling, put the wines on your list. I love going into Google Maps and saying wineries in this area and saving those. And yes, I do check them off my list because I'm committed like that. We'll see you guys in the next one.